Hey, welcome to the Council of Moms. We're so glad that you're here. If you're listening to us, you're in the right place because this is a podcast. But if you want to see what these voices look like and to see us roll our eyes and laugh and guffaw live ish, you can go over to our YouTube channel of the Council of Moms, and we have a community over there that you can also engage in. So thank you. Welcome to the Council of Moms. I'm experimenting with taglines, so tell me which one you guys like. The Council of Moms. It feels like we're all being set up on a play date. Shout out to Julie Taylor for that one.
That's the one.
Yeah. And the Council of Moms. Come as you are. Stay until your kids find you.
Oh, I like that one.
I like that one.
That one.
That's a good one. The thing that I like about bringing together the Council of Moms, not only do we bring, different kinds of people from different backgrounds and motherhood experiences, but we bring together like this common sort of exasperation in we've thought about these things individually for hours, and now is our chance to talk about them and share this wisdom. So this first question for the Council of Moms is kind of a specific one. A lot of times we do these ideas that are more philosophical about parenting. This one's quite specific, but it's one that is a tale as old as time. What do I do when I find out my child is being bullied? I don't know about you, but I was the kind of mom, I guess I still am. I'd like to think that I've relaxed on this a bit of like, that's looking for it. Like, what did they say? Oh, what did she do? I noticed that when you were with your group of friends, they all went off on who's that one? Like I find that I'm looking for it, maybe because my children are sweet and perfect. No, just kidding. I was going to say sweet, innocent, perfect. Blah, blah. No, but that, especially my first couple of kids were introverted. And as an extroverted mother, I think that's one of the reasons why I was looking for it. So I'm going to set it up that way because sometimes bullying looks different. How has it looked for you and your kids? And what do you do when you find out your kid's being bullied?
I think this one's challenging just because what I would do as a mom in this situation is different than what the school would do or the teachers would do and how they would respond. And sometimes your child doesn't actually, at least for me, my oldest, she's had experience with bullying and she didn't even realize it was happening to her. Like she would just come home and who'd you hang out with? And she'd tell me, and then she would start telling me things they would say to her, how they were playing this game where they were running away from me. And then I had to go find them all, but I could never find them. Like it just wasn't quite clicking with her. And so I think what I did first was I started with her to try to give her tools to distinguish like what makes a good friend. How do you want to be treated? How would you like people at school to kind of play with you or speak to you? And then hoping that she felt empowered, but also helping her understand like there's a time when you need to stop and tell the teacher. Like, so there's a moment where you can say, hey, I don't like how you're talking to me. I don't like that you keep leaving me out. If you do that, I'm going to go play with someone else. But there's also a time where it's like, actually, this is pretty bad. Go grab the teacher, and this is a time for them to intervene. So I think with her, it was helping her understand and recognize when she was being mistreated, and then helping her differentiate between like, I'm going to be empowered and stand up for myself versus, okay, this has gotten out of hand. I'm going to go talk to the teacher. That's just kind of been a challenge that we've dealt with the last couple of years.
I think that's a really good point. It's such a fine line. And I think the tricky thing about this conversation is what you would do or what you'd like to do or what people tell you to do is often very different than what you can do in the situation. Mm-hmm. Because the reality is when a kid is getting bullied in our situation, bringing in administration, which was necessary because it was very severe, made everything worse for my child because then there's repercussions for getting that stuff involved. And so you have to be really creative. And I think that's been my experience in mental health and bullying with my children is like the constant creativity of like how to go about it, because the things that are by the book that are even called for can sometimes make the situation worse. And especially when there's been a pattern of it. I'll never forget, I was in a therapy session with one of my children and the therapist just said to them, this isn't normal, right? And my child was like, oh. because the pattern had been going so long that they didn't know, that they just thought that that's what recess was you go and you get kicked in the stomach, or you go and it was really brutal and a really long pattern. And we had fought at it from every angle, and sometimes it got worse, and because of that pattern and because of how long and because of the confusion of that line, Cree, to your point of when do you bring in, when do you talk about it, when do you not, when is it just something that we handle? The patterns can continue and it can be normalized for the child to the point where they don't even realize that it's not okay. They just think that that's what's happening. And so we had to get really creative. And I mean, it got to the point where my kids skipped school once a week. We got the allowance from the school, and they knew that once a week they didn't have to go. And that was kind of the best situation to deal with it. So you just have to get creative, because the same thing's not going to work. And it can be really tricky in reality when it's no longer a hypothetical. So we can sit here and say, you talk to the principal, and then you call the mom, and then you give the bully grace because they're also hurting, and blah, 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 blah. But when you're actually boots on the playground, it's a different reality often.
Right. And you're out of control, and you don't have control in that environment. So you hope the teachers are supportive and helping your child, especially with what you told them, but you're not there. You're not there. I mean, I remember one time
you can't see all the nuance of it.
Right. And you don't know. And I told my daughter, I was like, if someone punches you, just punch them back. And she was like, oh, Mom, I would never. And I'm like, but if they keep punching you and you've asked them to stop, it's okay to push and punch them back. Oh, I would get in so much trouble. And I was like, well, if you were in the principal's office for pushing someone who is bullying you, Dad and I will probably take you out to ice cream. Like, you probably will not get in trouble with us. But you're right, Julie, right? That doesn't mean that she won't have consequences at school, and that continuity will be screwed up.
Yeah, totally. Well, and then they get older, and you can't go to the high school principal and say, they're being mean to my kid. Like, they've all cut them out of the text thread, or they're
out of the friend group. What do you do now?
They're out, which it's a lot easier to just dump people nowadays. All you have to do is dump them off the text thread, and they are out.
Yep.
Which happened in our family. And we spent a lot of time with our teenage son, who was the last kid in our family, like nights, keeping him busy, doing, trying not to make it seem weird that you're going out with your parents again. And because sometimes, at some point there is no principal that comes or teacher from the class. And sometimes it's even, it's kind of the whole school system can feel like it's against your kids. And that's hard. I loved both of you talked about like the tools, because really that's what we can do is keep our kids going forward with tools. This is how you handle this. This is, you come to me. If this is happening, go ahead and punch them, or, like whatever the family tools are, they're tools. And the trouble is kids don't grow up with tools. Hopefully they don't grow up with tools to survive cruelness. And so you have to do that with a really extra dose of like, and you're amazing. They don't get it, but you're going to find your people, and it's going to feel so good when you find your people.
Right.
That's such a good point. I think I was really naive to the idea of bullying. I just was like, my kids are great. No one's going to bully them. Ha ha. Like, and also we have this idea of what bullying looks like name calling or punching,
like the big thug shoving.
And it's the big, and it can be more subtle than that.
Totally.
And it can be more diabolical, to be honest, more cruel, in that. And so I appreciate like what Julie's saying about like the creativity of being involved. And then like Cree and Allison, you're saying of going to the kid, your kid, that's all you have control over. That took me a minute, because I thought, well, surely if I reason with their mom, who's my friend, or in my own family, surely reason, will make them react this way. You guys, I can't tell you. I mean, I can think of 3 very distinct conversations where I was like, so this happened. I know your kid didn't intentionally mean to do this, but this was the consequence. Like, what are we going to do, kind of thing. And the answer was just like, my kid didn't do that. What are you talking about? Well, your kid probably did it, or your kid's lying. And I was just like, it was just not met with the same sort of reaction. And I remember getting off the phone call one time. There was something sort of benign now, because my son is 26 and probably doesn't even remember this, but I will never forget. But a kid came over and opened their milk and poured it all over his lunch, all over the tray, pulled it and ruined the lunch. And my kid came home and was like, so he did that, and he said it was funny, but I didn't think it was funny. But is it funny? Like looking at me like really little. And I was like, it's not funny. And I called the mom, who was a friend of mine, so I could call. It wasn't weird. And I said, hey, listen, did you hear about what happened at lunch? And, explain the situation. And she sort of laughed. And her response was, well, they were playing that funny game. And I guess and your son has done stuff like that to my son. And I was like, no, he hasn't. When? Name one time. What are you talking about? Like,
give me the receipts.
Give me That's exactly how I was.
Totally.
And she just laughed it off. And I was trying to explain to her, like, this wasn't funny to him. To my kid, could we maybe not do that ever again? And she was not only not, anyway, at the Council of Moms, I feel like it's an important point when we're talking about bullying to bring up this idea that we can be each other's advocates, right? As moms, like we are in this together. Yeah. But if we're not hearing what someone else says and we're not taking it seriously, and hey, maybe I've been on the other side of that conversation too, of like, what are you talking about? That is not a big deal. I'm not getting in on your drama kind of thing. Yeah. I wish that I would have learned, and I have learned, but I wish I knew then that really the only control in the situation is how you talk to your kid about it. Yeah. Right? Like that is the real change of the kid going, yeah, that would bug me if that happened to me. What do you wish that you would have done? What will you do in the future, for that? And that I've got your back.
Well, and I think the reason this is so important is because are we not all grown-ups and are we not all still bullied? Like it never really stops. Yes. And so teaching on a kid level accountability when they are on the other side of things and to not internalize the treatment they're receiving of it's not about you. I think Allison, you said that of this isn't what you deserve. It's not. And those are two skills that we take with us into adulthood, because now when I'm in a situation where people are bad to me or I'm mistreated, I don't have anyone to call. It's on me to navigate that. And this is what the workshop is for these kids to be learning. And it doesn't really stop. So these skills, it's an opportunity to learn accountability and their worth and not letting this treatment affect that. And that's really, I think, what this is all about, because it doesn't stop. It never stops. And I think as moms, I get really hyperfixated and you just want to put them in a bubble and not let anyone. But then I think back to my own life and I'm like, someone dumped their milk on my lunch. I ate alone in junior high. I remember sitting on the toilet eating my bagel because I don't have any friends. It's character building. We all make it through. And so sometimes it is allowing a little bit of that and understanding this is what our kids have to learn, and again, knowing that line of when to interject and how to teach it. But it also is a normal part of life that still is happening for all of us every day.
Yeah,
right. Totally.
And each kid is going to react to it differently too. That same kid in junior high, when I'm like, didn't that drive you nuts? And he's like, you know what? I just figured out a long time ago that not everyone's going to like me. And I was like, the wisdom?
What?
I remember looking at my husband and we were like, you learned that already at like 12? You are ahead of the game. Wow.
Totally. Totally. Well, and you know what? So I was just with a girlfriend this morning and she was telling me about her daughter and she said, oh, she can be really hard on other kids. And I got to tell you, she's the first mom. My youngest is 22. She's the first mom I've ever heard say my kid can be hard on someone else too. Isn't that so fascinating? I mean, do you hear that very often?
Really fascinating.
Yeah, I loved it. And I told her, I'm like, you're the first. I'll always remember you saying your kid. And, we want, what? So,
I was just going to say, I was thinking about how sad it is in our culture in general that we've lost this idea of mothering as being a community effort.
Yeah.
I think that's really so sad because, and this, I'm going to speak to my own experience. Sometimes I just need the other person that's closer to my kid to yell at them and tell them to stop, right? Like, because I'm so far away and they can't hear me. So I would love if another mom like ran in front of my child while they were running at the swimming pool and just like, whoa, 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 slow down, wait for your mommy. Like, I would love that because I can't catch up to them, right? But then other times I'm like, how dare you? Why would you talk to my kid? Like, how dare you do that? But I think there's this idea that's been lost on us that the children we're raising now and the mom and their mothers and their parents, we're all part of this amazing big community. So this idea that it's hard, like, oh, we can only talk to our kid because if we call their mother, we're not thinking of parenting being as a community effort. Like if a mom corrects my kid, I take it as a stain on my motherhood. Like, crap, I'm a bad mom because they corrected my daughter.
She had to call me out.
Yes. Instead of like, we're working together as a community. Your child has been calling my daughter names and she is so tender. And I just am hoping that you could talk to them or I could talk to them or we could bring them together and they could talk to each other to understand how much harm that is causing her sweet, tender heart. Yeah. But I don't think to do that first. I'm just like, I'll give her tools. I'll talk to her teachers. And then hopefully that mom and them will figure it out over there. But I think that's a hard part about parenting right now is that it can feel shameful to be called out if your child's misbehaving because we see them as an extent. Well, they are. They're an extension of who we are. And it's hard to separate. You're not attacking me. You're not even attacking my child. You're just trying to help us build a better community for them when they grow up. And that's hard for me, but I feel that as a loss, right? Of a loss of community around helping our children just be excellent humans and wonderful little kids and the harm that it causes us when we feel like we're parenting in isolation.
Right. We're all disconnected and we feel that. And I have benefited so much from the collective wisdom of other women, so much so that like Council of Moms is like, like my jam because of that, because I think this is how this works. So I'm wondering, what are some cases that you've seen where that kind of like connection has worked, or how could we start encouraging more of that collective mothering that we've gotten away from?
I think one thing that really helps is on the individual, not seeing my children as a direct reflection of me for good or for bad. I try to see like when my kids do something great, I don't take credit for it. And when they do something not great, I don't beat myself up eternally for it because it's like they're their own human, right? But the thing that's helped me most in this is to make friends that are 10, 15 years older than me and 10 and 15 years younger than me. Because the perspective that we can give, I can call my friend whose kids are older than mine. And I think that this problem I'm facing, I think I'm the only one who's ever done it. I think it's never happened to anyone before. I think it's the most shameful, stressful, terrible thing that we're never going to make it through. And then my friend who's been through it before is like, oh, that's just another Wednesday in my 30s. It's okay. And it just deflates it and it like takes the shame away and it keeps me objective in the problem of like, okay, now I can actually talk about the problem because I'm not sifting through my own shame and like fear of this problem. And it allows me to be objective. And just those touch points, that helps a lot.
Allison, I'm wondering, earlier you mentioned something about like when your kids get older, that like bullying is more common and it's easier to do now. What kind of perspective do you have of like what we could do to like increase this like connection that we have to mother each other's kids when it's so hard, when it's on, technology?
This is the tough thing because generally you don't know, especially with your older kids and high school kids. It's hard to know. In fact, I just listened to this. It was an article by Andrew Solomon. It's called Doom Scrolling. And it's about the tragedy of kids who get online. And sometimes the bullying isn't even directed at them. But it's this idea of who they should be, who they aren't, right? That they aren't able to match up to. And the kids are suffering because of these messages that you need to be skinny, you need to be tough jock, you need to be like all these different things. And I think as they get older, the like one-on-one bullying goes away, but that like kind of that world bullying that comes at our kids, like this is who you should be. And I think it comes at us as moms too, a lot. Like, and that's where the shame comes in, right? And just kind of calling that out for what it is so that your kids know, like, this is this, and we all know that it's fake, but do we really? Do we really,
Right.
when we're getting this constant look of beautiful moms who are doing so much more than we can, and our kids are seeing, you know, the boys are seeing all these fit guys, the girls are seeing beautiful girls on TV, like the bullying, like I don't know. I mean, and I know that even like with friend groups, there's slight bullying with women.
Yeah.
But it's this bullying can come at us from a corporation or like a platform. So how do we learn to stay like in ourselves? How do we learn that we're okay? We're okay,
Right.
just the way we are.
Yeah.
Like
Thinking about what you're
that's
saying-
the thing we're working on now in our
Yeah.
with my kids.
Well, and thinking about what you're saying, I mean, my oldest is 9, my youngest is 2. I've got 4 of them. And the thing I try to do, and I'm trying, so I don't know if it's going to work because she's only 9. So we'll find out. But I'm trying to help her gather her sense of self, like just gather her sense of self, like not even her identity in relationship to our family necessarily. I want her to know that our family loves her. We support her. We love her for who she is. We want her to be successful. And if people say unkind things about her or treat her unkindly, she can come to us as a safety net. But she has interests that go way over my head. Like, okay, if this is really what you want to do. And sometimes I find myself talking badly to her about her own interests, and I'm her mom, right? So I'm like, okay, so instead of that,
I'm laughing because I'm relieved because I do the same
yes,
thing.
well, she likes to make stuff out of garbage, and I don't want garbage in my house. I want the garbage in the garbage. But she's
She's
just
a found
Mom,
artist, Cree.
yes, I'll
A
bring
found
this box."
artist.
That's exactly it. It's exactly it. I'll bring these box in, and I'm going to make a bed for this doll that I made out of my brother's old sock. And I'm like, ugh, there's just trash in my house. But I've had to reframe it, right, as like, I love how creative you are. This is amazing. I would have never thought to do this with this old box. I was just going to put it in the recycling, but it's okay. And then try to like healthily encourage her to discover and be grounded in that. So when she takes the doll she made out of her brother's sock to school for show and tell and gets laughed at, when she comes home, I can say, they just don't get you. They don't understand how hard that was.
Yeah.
They don't understand how creative you are.
Yeah.
And in our home and in our family, we're here to support you. So I'm trying really hard, and sometimes I do better than others. But I think this like centering of self and helping
Yeah.
them understand that when someone's picking on them, it's not about my daughter. It's about that other person who's trying to navigate and figure out who they are. And 9, that's pretty young, but I think maybe that helps as we grow. I hope it does. I don't know. I'll find
I
out.
think that we used to have the luxury of time to figure out who you are and to have that strong sense
Yeah.
of self. And the difference is in today's society, those kids, they have to have it earlier and younger. And I do
Right.
think like Allison and Cree, you're both saying like that you have to be the one that echoes of that. You have value. You are important. These are the gifts that I see that you do. These are the things that you know, and this sense of like family culture becomes, I think, more and more important too. Because one thing that I have discovered as my kids have gotten older, you know, I only have one at home now, but I have 5 kids, and we're still in each other's orbits, which is a fun way of saying we like to be together, from 16 to 26. And now I think I underestimated earlier how important those family stories are to establishing like whatever they say here in this house, we like this weirdo music.
Mhm.
Or, you know, your dad was one of 9 kids and they all did this and he was the only one that liked this. And that's cool. And they're still
Yeah.
friends. And this like pointing at that out, but that in a way that's connected to them so that I think that can help them give the freedom to make their own choices about like who they are and their identity. And I think it has to be
Totally.
earlier than it was in generations past.
Well, for sure, some of us, like I'm in my mid 50s, like I'm still working on that, being okay
Me too.
with my beliefs, and they're different than I thought. That, you know, they're always changing, and I'm always having to get square with myself again and be like, I'm okay believing this, feeling this, thinking this. Like, so we're doing the work on ourselves at the same time we're trying to teach our kids the skills, and it's tricky. It's a tricky business,
Yeah.
and it
But
and
the
it
other reason
changes
that
as-
matters. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, go, for sure.
Or just the other reason that matters is talking about the other side of the conversation of who like bullying bullies come from insecurity. That's why you do that. So the more secure they are and we are in ourselves, the less we're going to become the bully as well. And I think we've all been in both situations. I don't think it's like us versus them. I think it's all us versus us on a Monday versus a Wednesday. And that's why it all matters. I'm my own bully.
Bumpy. I bully myself. Well, and I hope here on the Council of Moms that we bully each other into being better and to like coming together, right? Like, you like how I did that? I wrapped that up really nice in a bow.
So good.
I was like,
it was a nice bow.
Thank you. Thank you. The Council of Moms, bullying us all to our best lives.
Greatness.
I don't know about that one.
I know, that was too much. Council of Moms, bullying. Listen, it's hard out there, and we need a strong sense of self. No, that's not, doesn't roll off the tongue.
Not quite. Not quite. That's all right.
But it's
Be
okay.
your own bully. Council of Moms, be your own bully.
Be your own bully. We are. What a nice. We're still workshopping it. That's one of the great things about the Council of Moms. You know, it's always a conversation that needs a part two. Always. That needs a continuation. But
Absolutely.
You guys have brought up some really great ideas, and I appreciate you being here for this one. Thanks.